I woke up to the smell of coffee and something sweet, something warm, and for a second I thought I was dreaming. But then I heard her humming in my kitchen. That soft little melody she does when she thinks no one's listening, and my heart just stopped. Because Maya doesn't live here. We don't live together. We're not even officially dating. And yet somehow, this woman I've been falling for in the slowest, most terrifying way possible had let herself into my apartment at 7 in the morning to make me breakfast. I should probably back up. 3 months ago, I met Maya at a gallery opening that I almost didn't go to. My friend Jess had dragged me there, insisting I needed to get out more, stop hiding behind my laptop and my deadlines. I'm a copywriter, which means I spend most of my time alone with my thoughts, and honestly, I'd gotten pretty comfortable with that arrangement. But Jess wouldn't take no for an answer, so I threw on something that didn't look like I'd been wearing it for 2 days straight and went. The gallery was one of those trendy, converted warehouse spaces, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. I was standing in front of this massive abstract painting, trying to figure out if I was supposed to understand it or just pretend I did, when I heard this voice beside me say, "It looks like a sunset having an argument with itself, doesn't it?" I turned, and there she was, dark hair pulled back in this messy bun that somehow looked intentional, wearing paint-stained jeans and a black tank top, holding a glass of wine like she actually belonged there. Her eyes were this warm brown that caught the light, and when she smiled at me, I forgot how to form words for a solid 3 seconds. "I think the sunset's winning," I finally managed to say, and she laughed. God, her laugh. It was genuine and a little loud and completely unself-conscious, and I wanted to hear it again immediately. We spent the next 2 hours talking. She's a ceramicist, which I'd never really thought about as a career before, but the way she described working with clay, shaping something with her hands, feeling it respond to her touch, it sounded almost intimate. She told me about her studio space, about the piece she was working on that kept collapsing because she couldn't get the weight distribution right. I told her about the ad campaign I was writing for organic dog food, and somehow she made even that sound interesting. When the gallery started closing, neither of us wanted to leave. So we went to this late-night diner and ordered pancakes and kept talking until the sun started coming up. She told me about growing up in Portland, about coming out to her family when she was 19, about her ex-girlfriend who'd wanted her to give up ceramics and get a real job. I told her about my parents who still think I'm just going through a phase, even though I've been out since college, about how sometimes I feel like I'm still figuring out who I am at 28. "I think we're all still figuring it out," she said, reaching across the table to steal a piece of my pancake. "Anyone who says they have it all together is lying." Our hands brushed when she pulled back, and I felt it everywhere. That should have been the moment I knew I was in trouble. But I'm good at denial. I'm excellent at it, actually. So I told myself we were just friends. That the way my stomach flipped when her name appeared on my phone was normal friend behavior. That thinking about her smile before I fell asleep was just because she was interesting and new, and I didn't have many friends who understood what it was like to be a creative person trying to make it work. We started seeing each other a couple times a week. Coffee dates that turned into lunch dates that turned into dinner dates that we both very carefully never called dates. She'd show me pictures of her latest pottery pieces, and I'd read her the ridiculous copy I had to write for clients. We'd walk through the city for hours talking about everything and nothing, and the whole time, I was hyper-aware of every accidental touch, every moment our shoulders brushed, every time she'd lean in close to show me something on her phone and I could smell her shampoo. The first time she touched me intentionally, we were at her studio. She'd invited me to see the piece she'd finally gotten to work. This incredible tall vase with these flowing, organic shapes that seemed to move even though they were solid. I was admiring it, probably saying something completely inadequate about how beautiful it was, when she took my hand and guided it to the surface. "Feel the texture," she said, her voice soft. I wanted it to feel like water, like something fluid. Her hand was still covering mine, warm and strong and covered in clay dust, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could feel was her skin against mine, and the smooth, cool ceramic under our fingers, and the way she was standing so close I could feel the heat of her body. I pulled away too fast, made some excuse about needing to get home for a deadline. The look on her face, this flash of hurt and confusion, it killed me. But I was scared, because I knew if I stayed in that moment 1 second longer, I was going to kiss her, and then I'd have to admit that this was more than friendship, that I was falling for her in a way that felt dangerous and inevitable. After that, I tried to create some distance. I'd take longer to respond to her texts. I'd be busy when she suggested getting together. It was stupid and cowardly, and it lasted exactly 5 days before she showed up at my apartment with Thai takeout and said, "Okay, what did I do wrong?" "Nothing," I said, because it was true. "You didn't do anything wrong." "Then why are you avoiding me?" She set the food down on my kitchen counter, and the smell of pad thai filled my tiny apartment. "Did I make you uncomfortable at the studio? Because if I did, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I just thought—" "You didn't make me uncomfortable," I interrupted. "That's the problem." She looked at me, really looked at me, and I watched her face change as she understood. "Oh," she said quietly. We stood there in my kitchen, the takeout getting cold between us, and the air felt thick with everything we weren't saying. I wanted to be brave. I wanted to close the distance between us and just tell her how I felt, but the words stuck in my throat, heavy and impossible. "I should go," she finally said, and I hated myself for the disappointment in her voice. "Maya, wait." But she was already heading for the door, and I let her go because I'm a coward. I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks after that. 2 weeks of checking my phone constantly, of typing out messages and deleting them, of lying awake at night replaying that moment in my kitchen and wishing I'd been braver. I missed her so much it physically hurt. I missed her laugh and her stories and the way she saw the world. I missed feeling like myself around her. Then, 3 weeks ago, she texted me, just, "I miss you." 3 words that broke something open in my chest. I called her immediately. We talked for 3 hours. We didn't talk about feelings or what we were or weren't. We just talked, the way we used to, and it felt like coming home. After that, we started seeing each other again, but something had shifted. There was this awareness now, this acknowledgement hanging between us. We'd catch each other staring. Our casual touches would linger just a little too long. The tension was constant and electric and terrifying. Last week, I had a terrible day. A client had rejected a campaign I'd spent weeks on. My landlord had raised my rent, and I'd gotten into a fight with my mom about bringing someone to Thanksgiving. I was sitting on my couch in my pajamas at 4 in the afternoon, eating ice cream straight from the container and feeling sorry for myself, when Maya texted asking if I wanted company. I should have said no. I looked like a disaster and felt worse. But I missed her, and I was tired of pretending I didn't need her, so I said yes. She showed up 20 minutes later with a bottle of wine and this soft look in her eyes that made me want to cry. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just sat next to me on the couch, took the ice cream, and put it on the coffee table. Then she pulled me into her arms and I let myself collapse into her, breathing in the scent of her, feeling the steady beat of her heart against my cheek. "You want to talk about it?" she asked, her fingers running through my hair in this gentle, soothing rhythm. "Not really," I said into her shoulder. "I just want to stay like this for a while." "Okay," she said simply. We stayed like that until the light outside faded to dark. At some point, she reached for the remote and put on some mindless cooking show. We drank the wine. She ordered pizza. And slowly, the terrible day started to feel less terrible because she was there. And somehow, that made everything better. When she finally got up to leave around midnight, I walked her to the door. She turned to say goodbye, and we were standing so close, closer than we needed to be. Her eyes dropped to my lips, and my heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "Thank you for coming over," I whispered. "Anytime," she said, and her voice was rough in a way that did things to me. "I mean that. Anytime you need me, I'm here." I wanted to kiss her so badly in that moment. I wanted to pull her back inside and tell her everything I'd been too scared to say. But I just nodded and watched her leave, and then I stood with my back against the door for a long time, trying to catch my breath. 2 days later, I gave her a key to my apartment. I told myself it was practical, that it was just in case of emergencies, that it didn't mean anything, but we both knew it meant everything. When I handed it to her over coffee, her fingers closed around it and then around mine, and the smile on her face was soft and knowing and full of promise. "Just in case," I said weakly. "Just in case," she agreed, but her thumb was tracing circles on the back of my hand, and I was pretty sure we were talking about something else entirely. Which brings us to this morning, to waking up to the smell of coffee and the sound of her humming in my kitchen, to lying in my bed, my heart racing, trying to figure out what this means, what I want it to mean, what I'm finally ready to admit. I got up slowly, pulled on a sweatshirt, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. She was standing at my stove, flipping what looked like French toast, wearing one of my oversized t-shirts that she must have grabbed from my laundry, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked so right there, so natural in my space, like she belonged. She turned when she heard me, and her whole face lit up. "Good morning," she said. "I hope you don't mind. I woke up thinking about you, and I remembered you mentioned you had that big presentation today, and I thought maybe you could use a proper breakfast." "You woke up thinking about me?" I asked, and my voice came out smaller than I intended. She set down the spatula and turned to face me fully. "I wake up thinking about you most mornings," she said quietly. "I go to sleep thinking about you too, and most of the hours in between, if I'm being honest." I crossed the kitchen, closing the distance between us. My hands were shaking slightly, but I reached up and cupped her face, feeling the softness of her skin under my palms. "Maya," I said, and her name felt like a prayer, like a confession. "Yeah?" she whispered, her eyes searching mine. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I'm scared of how much I feel for you. I'm scared of messing this up. I'm scared that if I let myself have this, have you, something will go wrong and I'll lose you completely." "I'm scared too," she said, covering my hands with hers, "but I'm more scared of pretending this isn't happening, of wasting more time dancing around what we both know is true." "What's true?" I asked, even though I knew. I needed to hear her say it. "That I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you," she said, and her voice didn't shake at all. "That I have been for weeks, maybe from that first night at the gallery, and I think you might feel the same way." I kissed her. Finally, I kissed her. And it was everything I'd imagined, and nothing like I'd expected, all at once. Her lips were soft, and she tasted like coffee, and she made this small sound in the back of her throat that I felt in my bones. Her arms came around me, pulling me closer, and I melted into her, into this moment I'd been too afraid to reach for. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, I rested my forehead against hers. "I love you too," I whispered. "So much, it terrifies me." "Good," she said, and I could feel her smile against my skin. "We can be terrified together." The French toast burned. We ordered bagels instead and ate them in my bed, her head on my shoulder, my fingers tangled in her hair. We talked about what this meant, about taking it slow even though we'd already been falling for months, about telling our friends, about navigating this new, beautiful, terrifying thing between us. "So," she said eventually, "does this mean I can start calling these dates? Because I've been wanting to for a while now." I laughed, and it felt light and free and full of joy. "Yeah," I said, "these are definitely dates. Have been for a while, probably." "Good," she said, pressing a kiss to my shoulder, "because I plan on taking you on many, many more." She's still here, hours later. We're supposed to both be working, but instead we're on my couch, her laptop on the coffee table showing me her latest pottery designs, my notebook open with half-written copy that I can't focus on because she keeps kissing my neck in this distracting, wonderful way. We don't live together. We're not rushing into anything. But she has a key now, and she brings me breakfast, and I'm in love with her, and she's in love with me. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. Maybe being terrified is worth it when you're terrified with the right person.